you can't solve a problem that you can't define. So the first thing we have to do is say, okay, how am I interpreting this? My office was with this recent cold snap kind of stuff, ended up with a pipe bust and really, really a lot of damage in my office. It's like, okay, that's a bad thing, right? It really was one of those places where I realized with hindsight that my practice was paying off because it didn't take me long at all. First of all, I didn't get really upset about it anyway. My whole office is going to be renovated, new floors, some walls, lots of damage done all over the place. So I realized this is my new home. I'm going to stay here. This is an example of if you practice reinterpreting, if you practice recognizing where you don't interpret things in the best way for yourself, that if you practice it consciously over and over and over again, you really do move into that unconscious competence part. Whereas with this situation, with this circumstance, and I'm realizing it even more as I'm talking to you about it, is I didn't have to make any effort. I did not make any effort to translate that. I actually did very quickly interpret this as something that was going to be a positive thing for me. And it's not like look on the bright side. It's just like it was more of a I realized it wasn't like that. It wasn't like I had to talk to myself and say, look on the bright side. It was just like, this is another way of looking at something like this. It's change. And
can you describe that practice that got you from there to here? Because I'm guessing that if this had happened to you maybe like 10 years ago, you might not have defaulted to such a kind of constructive attitude.
No, I would have defaulted to our teeth and gums benefit from brushing our teeth, even if we're not in the mood to do it. So to me, that's where the practice is. The practice is to make that conscious decision that says, I'm going to look at how I'm interpreting. I'm going to listen in to see what's being said inside. We don't, my whole practice is based on the idea we don't spend enough time listening to our inner workings. And sometimes it's the blatant stuff, like saying no to the addict or to the eating disorder stuff, but it's not always those bots. And sometimes it's just different ways of looking at things. And I grew up in a family where, my default position, actually, when you talk about that, my default position coming out of that family training was negative. I've joked that if negativity were an Olympic event, my whole family would be gold medalists. But now, of course, this is the punchline. We wouldn't think it was a good thing. We would find some way to make that into a negative. So, I've been aware that I've made a lot of progress through the years for a long while now. But the most important part of this is acceptance. Not to immediately rush to say, okay, I'm thinking wrong about this. This is not wrong. This is just, how is this mechanism in my mind working? And if I'm seeing it as, oh my God, this is going to be so inconvenient. If I'm listening in, I'm hearing, oh, this is going to be, like you were talking about default, besides the fuck, it would be like, this is going to be so inconvenient and so hard. With my depression, I would feel it would be a perfect place to feel just completely overwhelmed. With compassion, recognize how you are interpreting things that leave you in distress. How am I interpreting this? How am I viewing this? What is my intrapersonal process saying? Because what happens is I get trapped in, I think a lot of people who have a history of negative thinking, as I do, we have no problem coming up with examples of how our own negative thinking has trapped us, but the thing about the serenity prayer, it's like, I can't do anything about the things that are creating the trap from the outside. I couldn't do anything about the cold weather. I couldn't do anything about the pipe that wasn't insulated. I couldn't do anything about the fact that there was nobody at that building for 2 days, so the water just ran for 2 days. These are all things fall in the category of things I cannot change. It's like, I cannot change the fact that the people who are going to do the renovation they're not going to be working on my time frame. They're going to be working on their time frame with that whole building and with other projects that they have. Lots and lots of things I don't control. But if I ask myself, but see, that stuff, as a negative thinker, I could focus on all of that and feel bad. As doing what I'm doing now, and I'm realizing with this hindsight, looking at it and going like, I really focus, and this falls in a category that I quote my wife on this. She uses the term positive selfishness. It's like self-focus that not only is not harmful to other people, but it's actually helpful, because I'm a better person to work with in that situation. It's like I'm easier at home. I'm an easier person to be around because I'm not bitching and moaning about my office being a mess. But just in terms of even the people that are working with me when we're working on how doing this renovation and doing this repair work, it's like, I like being the guy that these guys, because a lot of those contractors and stuff, they're used to people being pretty upset with them, even though they didn't cause the problem. I like being the guy that basically can enjoy having those conversations with them. And I realize sometimes they're kind of surprised that I have a decent attitude about it. And that's one of the most practical ways to put it. It's check your attitude.